So I didn't notice this until I loaded up my save file here, but it turns out the characters have special idle animations for when you're standing near a jukebox and listening to the music. So that's fun.
But they don't know it's Scarlet's theme. Sounds really nice. I wonder who this is about.
Aerith is just sitting in her cage in Hojo's lab being like, Cloud's coming for me. I just know it. And then you just see Cloud.
Oh, this is my jam.
Cloud and Barrett are just going like, in front of the jukebox.
Also, this is where you meet Chadley in his lab coat.
I've been waiting for you. You haven't forgotten me, have you? I'm an intern in the R&D division.
Oh, you're young for an intern. What is he, an android?
No,
or
I'd say he's the appropriate age for unpaid internship.
He gets paid in experience.
Yeah,
well,
yeah.
Experience is a currency in an RPG. So, you know. If you get paid in experience in the Dark Souls universe, you got it made because it's also actual money. Actually, if you're getting paid in experience in the Dark Souls universe, they're literally paying you souls, and that's kind of disturbing.
Okay, question though, Lewis. Why is this part B?
Well, why does this part B? Because
we're just doing nothing but side missions.
Because the rewards you get in the Shinra Combat Simulator are actually really good. For one thing, you get the EXP materia, which doubles the experience you get for every battle, and then you get the gil up materia, which doubles the gil you get for every battle. And the other three challenges, the one-on-one, the one character challenges, all get you the best 3 armors in the game. So I recommend doing these. They're also like actually easier. No, I tell a lie. The other challenges can be pretty difficult. But as you see, I'm doing 5 challenges on this part, and it's substantially shorter than the part where I went through Corneo Coliseum. So it is at least less annoying, oddly.
Don't worry, Cloud is coming for me. I just know it. Hey, Cloud, look at my Oculus Rift.
They got the best stuff in here, Cloud. We got to grind up the money so we can get to, stop at the gift store.
They got my name wrong for the Starbucks order again.
Yeah.
Who's Brett?
My name is not Bullet.
Okay.
Order for Claude.
But this particular challenge is another one of those ones where you have to fight sub-bosses again. And they brought back the Tripopolis, but fortunately there's only one of them this time. So you can just kill the 2 other regular enemies and then focus on the one Tripopolis. And when you're focusing on one of these guys, you're inevitably going to spawn the Dancer. So it actually goes down a lot faster than it normally would.
I'm sorry, I'm still thinking about the idea of it's just like they're at the Starbucks and then you have orders for Claude, Barry, and Tina. I don't know why. That's really funny.
Which I have to say, like, that kind of shit has increased tenfold over the last year because of, like, the mask mandate and all that. And again, I'm not saying that, like, don't stop wearing masks and all that sort of thing. It's like, no, it's for your own safety. But damn, does it make it hard to order shit at times because I don't want to put the mask down to clarify.
So what will happen then is that Yuffie gets the one person who's actually a furry at the Starbucks and he puts it as Yuffie and he just winks at her. He's like,
there's a mask and then there's a plastic barrier in the way and nobody can hear what the other person is saying.
Yeah. It's like, even with the plastic barrier in front of their face, I feel like an asshole putting the mask down to clarify.
It's like, for the first time in my life, it's actually easier to order through the drive-thru because I can take the mask off when I'm at the speaker thing without worrying, and then I put the mask on when I get to the window. But, like, when I go inside... I went inside Burger King to order at the counter because the drive-thru line was, like, 2 miles long one day. It's the beginning of May. That's going to happen. And like, I go and I order something, and the guy behind the counter is like, what? And then I say it again louder, and he's like, what? And I couldn't tell if he was making fun of me or not.
He is a Stone Cold fan.
Anyway, Leviathan. I got it slightly wrong when I said it earlier. Leviathan's not all about magical stats. I think his stats are actually fairly balanced. But the thing about Leviathan is that he is of the largest size rating of all of the summons. So there are some boss arenas where you can't summon Leviathan. It's actually kind of dazzling. Ooh, dead.
And I think they have specific animations that are tied to specific boss arenas. if you happen to I think summon him in New Game Plus.
If you summon him in the Airbuster boss fight, he like twists around the catwalks and stuff. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, which is cool. Like I love.
But
that
like
detail.
you can't summon Leviathan against the specimen monster that Hojo sicks on you in the next boss fight.
Just not enough room.
Yeah.
He's too big. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
He's too big.
He can't
Too
be
big
in
for
Smash.
Smash.
He can't be in Smash Brothers now.
No.
Yeah, he's too big for a lot of the arenas in the game. So you're not going to get Leviathan in a lot of boss fights. On top of that, he takes 2 ATB Gauges to summon, and all of his summon skills take 2 ATB Gauges to use. On the occasion that you do get Leviathan out in a battle, though, he's actually really effective. Like, he has wide sweeping area attacks that go off quickly, and basically he'll wreck the enemy's shit if you manage to summon him. So, worth getting.
So, I wanted to ask you guys this. Well, for those who specifically played this game. So, despite it having more of an action RPG setup akin to Kingdom Hearts and all that, does anyone else feel it's a little odd that you can't outright like dodge every attack, where it's the best course of action is just to guard and just take shots, which I realize in essence is not much different than its original gameplay where you just took turns smacking each other in the face?
Well, games feel very different when they're turn-based versus action. You know, you expect to take hits in a turn-based game.
Right. And in this game, you were expected to just block hits altogether instead of just trying to dodge it. But I feel because of it feels so weird because of all the movement options you're given that, oh no, it's like you're better off just blocking it rather than just trying to dodge out of the way.
It depends. There are a lot of attacks that it seems like you can't dodge, but you actually can. If you're good and you know the right moment to dodge.
I think part of it is also that you have to, in some way, make sure your characters are getting damaged.
Yeah.
Otherwise, things like potions, revives, strategy goes out the window if you can just be good enough to where you can just avoid damage.
Just dodge roll everything like Dark Souls.
It's not that. It is that, but not just that. In a game like Devil May Cry, where you're expected to be able to avoid everything, if you're good enough, the idea of using healing stuff like healing items and all of that becomes it starts to be viewed as a crutch for lack of skill rather than a legitimate tactical option that you can choose to employ if you want to. So like, and that's valid for that genre, I guess, but in a game like Final Fantasy, where all of these elements are supposed to work together to form a cohesive combat system, I feel like if they made it so that you could, if you were good enough, avoid all damage, then people would start to develop that sort of elitist view of healing items and healing magic and healing everything that they develop in the pure action genre. And players would start to feel like they were failing at the game if they were using them.
Well, it doesn't help that games like Bayonetta and Devil May Cry punish you for using those kinds of things by lowering your rank whenever you do use them.
Yeah, but in those games, to be fair, they kind of are meant to just help you if you're not good enough at the game. And that's fine for something like Devil May Cry, where the gameplay is more like more laser focused on your moveset. But this is a game that's clearly trying to be tactical within its action system. You have full control of 3 party members at any given time, and each of those party members is modular, so that they can, so that they can fulfill like multiple tactical roles within battle. Like, we're trying to keep things exciting with the action combat and dynamic, so that you have to think on your feet and move around the battlefield and react to things. But you're clearly meant to pause and take stock and plan out your method of attack more than you are to just barrel in and react to things. And that's kind of like the difference between this and Final Fantasy 15. In Final Fantasy 15, you could hold a button and pretty much avoid anything. The
Is
only say
So
what?
I'm just curious because a lot of this has to do with whether or not the game like wants or expects you to take hits. Is it? I'm wondering how much of it is just like I feel like I always dodge more than block in these kinds of games, and I tend to see people dodge more than block in these kinds of games. But I don't know if that's actually like accurate or if it's like just what I feel is the case.
I think it all depends on the viability of the blocking and dodging mechanic of said game.
Because
All I
like
can
I
say
hear about
is
stuff
pick
like
up.
Metal Gear Rising Revengeance, where like you're supposed to guard and parry all the time, and I'm like, oh, I would hate that because I hate blocking.
Well, Revengeance doesn't have a very good evasion mechanic, is the thing, which is odd.
It doesn't have an evasion mechanic. It is an upgrade that you can get later.
Yeah, it has a dodge sideways and slash your sword move or something.
Right.
But like you're supposed to block and parry, and it's really addictive once you've gotten a handle on how that works.
Yes.
But it's not like Bayonetta where you have a big ass useful dodge roll that you're going to be employing all the time.
It's just so strange to consider. Like you have this very agile augmented human who has to buy a dodge roll. That's what fucks me up about it.
I mean, it goes well with the system that they devised for the game, but conceptually it is a bit odd, yes. But with Final Fantasy VII Remake, it's a little bit odder. It's a little bit weirder to think about because, like, a lot of these attacks are almost certainly going to hit you. And
Yeah, like there's enemies, to compare it to Kingdom Hearts, because this is what I feel I have to compare it to, are way more aggressive. Like, way more aggressive than any Heartless, Nobody, or Unverse you'd ever run into in those games.
yeah. I mean, at least it doesn't have the problem that a lot of people grappled with when Final Fantasy XII came out for the first time, which was because people weren't like JRPG fans in particular weren't accustomed to the idea of real-time positioning in an RPG combat system.
It was kind of going off of 11's design,
Yeah.
only it was a single-player
Well,
experience.
11's design, kind of, but also stuff like Baldur's Gate and Icewind Dale and Planescape Torment and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, but I'm filthy Final Fantasy casual. I never heard of those
Yeah,
games.
a lot of people did compare it to Final Fantasy XI because that was the closest thing they were familiar with. But because JRPG fans weren't used to that kind of positioning in real time, in an RPG combat system specifically, they started complaining that, if I can move around, why can't I dodge things? Because if an attack targeted you, then almost regardless of your positioning, it would hit you. Or it would miss if your stats were good. Or something like
Which
that.
I feel, to some extent, is a valid complaint. Because once you start introducing the idea of free motion in battles...
That was a problem I had when I tried to play Secret of Mana, because you can move and run around and walk and whatever, but in that game, it doesn't matter when an enemy uses a magic attack. It doesn't matter where you're standing or what the graphic looks like. You just take damage anyway, and it bugged the crap out of me. So,
Yeah.
it's a legitimate thing that people that can bother people.
It depends on. To me, it just kind of depends on context, because what it's trying to represent versus what it's actually doing. Because you get into something like XCOM where you have the motion to move around the battlefield, and you can be pointing the gun right in their face, and it still says hit rate at 80%. It's like, what?
Yeah, but that's the thing. Positioning in an RPG battle system, it wasn't really a new thing with Final Fantasy XII, but they complained about it in Final Fantasy XII because they weren't really used to it. But that kind of stuff existed before Final Fantasy XII in a bunch of games. Knights of the Old Republic is another one. Ah, good. Limit break time. Here we go. Dolphin Flurry. Never gets old. Isn't Shoryuken supposed to be all about fire and energy, not water and dolphins?
Shoryuken is just the name of the punch. If it's fire, it's Ken. Ken just adds fire to his Shoryuken because he likes to flex.
Well, also the fire also tends to be the heavy Shoryuken compared to lighter versions.
Only with Ken, though. Ken is the only one that has the fire Shoryuken.
I mean, like, didn't Sagat get scarred across the chest because of the Shoryuken?
Right. That was raw, though. No fire there.
That must have been a really weird punch then.
Yeah.
I assume all the special techniques all in some way use the Satsui no Hado.
Yes.
Well, I think that was like, I mean, that's what they eventually said it was. Like, it wasn't just a matter of a Shoryuken that caught Sagat off guard. It was because Ryu was full of evil intent when he did it. It was like, couldn't he just, I don't know, defend himself?
Oh, you mean all the good intent that you have normally when you punch people in the face?
Well, it was a martial arts competition where they fought, so it is valid to say that someone lost control of their sportsmanship in the heat of the moment. But Street Fighter with the Ryu story just kind of really stupidly romanticizes the concept of combat. So,
you know, you have to join me, and together we'll rule the galaxy as Angry Man and other Angry Man.
I don't think Bison ever really tried to recruit Ryu though.
Oh, I was talking more about who's its face.
He definitely would have taken the opportunity to brainwash him, though, because that's what Bison does.
God, what's the name of the guy? The angry Ryu.
Evil Ryu?
Evil Ryu?
No, angry buff Ryu.
Akuma,
thank you. God.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, there's Ryu, there's Evil Ryu, there's Kage, there's Akuma.
There's Oni.
I like the first battle in this particular area, which is just like a swarm of fucking throwaway bug monsters that go down like
Evil,
nothing.
Violent Ken.
Oh God, Violent Ken is the stupidest thing I've ever seen in a video game. And there's a lot of stupid crap in video games.
Why did it take them 20 plus years to reference the Street Fighter 2 animated movie with the re-release? That's what throws me off.
Yeah, but why is he also called Violent Ken? As if his job isn't violent enough?
Well, Ken's a family
He's
man.
full of that evil intent.
Ken went home to be a family man, you know. So,
I mean, he is married to Guile's sister.
Wait, is he actually married to Guile's sister?
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah, I believe Eliza
man, that's
is
got to be the
related to Guile.
worst family reunion of all time. Oh,
Guile hates it.
Everything's cool until it's election year.
now, like, he lost to Guile. he lost to Guile. Guile said go home and be a family man as a taunt. And Ken decided to respond to that in the only way that was appropriate, by doing what Guile said. So...
I think I'm gonna go home and fuck your sister. Excuse me?
I mean, if you say so, Haas. Guile's like, wait, no, not like that.
And Ken just drives off with Guile's theme playing in the background. Like, Guile just shakes his fist as he's driving off.
Oh God, I'm just imagining the Christmas or Thanksgiving dinner, and you see Guile and Ken arguing about politics at the table, and then like,
Oh,
Yeah,
they absolutely would.
they're wearing these absolutely fucking skin tight turtlenecks that Eliza did for them. It's ill fitted as fuck.
We're the only two characters on the roster from the USA. We've got so much in common.
and then you see Ryu is just not listening, and he's just eating a gigantic turkey leg. Like,
I'm surprised Ryu even showed up.
Hey, it's
No, Ryu's
But he's
a-
still
Ryu's
in his
a-
gi and he's got bare feet.
He's a vagabond, okay? Any opportunity for free food is something that he just
yeah,
can't afford to
I don't
pass
think
up.
Ryu would ever turn down a free meal. I can't think of any reason why he would.
I thought that was a monster, but it's actually just Ifrit sliding.
I mean, Ifrit is, but he's a monster on your side.
I thought it was an enemy monster, but it's Ifrit sliding
Yeah.
into frame.
Say you're in the wrong neighborhood,
I
motherfucker.
really, really love how they handle the summons in this game, and replaying the game to record it really brought that home to me in a way that my first playthrough didn't. Because once you've got the summon in play, it actually does work really well with the tactical options that you have. I mean, you do have to use up a character's ATB segments to tell them to perform an action, but You can use up any character's ATB segments to do that, not just the summoners. And that's really handy because, like, at any given time in battle, you don't necessarily care what all 3 of your characters are doing. So at some point during a battle, you'll inevitably just have someone sitting there with full ATB. And when you have a summon out, that's something that you can do with that character that you don't really have a tactical use for at that moment. You can have them command the summon to use one of their special attacks. And the special attacks actually are really useful for driving up the enemy's stagger gauge or dealing extra damage with an element. And on top of that, the summons are automatically attacking the enemy anyway. So they're just free damage while they're out there. It's like the best parts of the Final Fantasy XII summon system combined with the best parts of the Final Fantasy X summon system. I only wish I could take direct control of the summon, though, because that would be wild.
Question: why is Shinra's holographic training training people to train against their own soldiers?
I think you just answered your own question. Like, you have the soldiers face against other models of soldiers to get an idea of what combat be like. Yeah.
These particular training sequences are for soldier trainees, so low-ranking soldiers. So, yeah, I guess they want to make sure that their elite soldiers can stand up to anything else that their own military can throw at them. Presumably because, like, the Wutai military and any other invading force would use the same kind of stuff. And, you know, that's not too incredibly out there, because in actual military training, they will pit soldiers against other soldiers in mock battles. I mean, with training equipment and stuff, obviously, but, like, you ever watched Starship Trooper?
I'm doing my part.
Like, even though the actual war was against bug monsters, when they were in training, they were fighting against, you know, other soldier trainees. Which is why that one guy got his headshot off, because he took his helmet off and all.
Starship Troopers is one of the very few examples of the movie that's actually better than the book.
Well, because the book is playing it straight, the movie's taking the shit out of it.
Same director as RoboCop, I think.
Yeah, but like the movie also has something to say, and the book really kind of doesn't, which is also
well, because again, the book is playing it straight. You're supposed to, in some way, agree with them, and it's like, no, you're not supposed to do that.
No, the book does have something to say. It just what the book had to say wasn't very nice.
Well, I mean, the movie isn't saying something really all that nice either. But,
well, the thing is, no, what I mean
more
is,
reasonable.
What I mean is that the message of the book and the message of the movie directly disagree with each other. The adaptation was done by people who didn't agree with the author of the book, and it really shows. So.
Yeah, it's not. A lot of the stuff is the same from the book. It's just that it's the inflection on a lot of things is different to show, hey, these guys are fucking idiots. Don't listen to them.
No, like the political views of Starship Troopers' author were.
How dare you bring politics into Starship Troopers, there, Lewis? This was a completely apolitical story before you brought up politics.
The political views of the book's author were not the kind of views that I think any of us here would ever agree with.
Nope.
So you think that was the intention of, like, God, I forgot the guy's
movie?
name. No, the director's name. What the fuck? Peter.
I mean,
But yeah, no, the movie version is intentionally taking the shit out of everything.
Right. But it's like, can you think of an example of when a director of an adaptation does it to intentionally dunk on the author's political views, or?
I wouldn't. So this isn't necessarily a case of dunking, but Spielberg in Jurassic Park definitely has a much different view on the park than Crichton does.
Interesting thing about the Jurassic Park
No,
case.
you got started on Jurassic Park.
No, interesting thing about the Jurassic Park thing, and this is, like, when the book was being written originally, Crichton wanted it to be a children's book. Believe it or not.
I did not know that.
I think it was the publishers who disagreed with that, so that's why we got the actual book that we did, which is really adult and has people's intestines falling out all over the goddamn place. But it was supposed to be a book about a book for children. The movie, ironically, brought back some of that spirit.
Yeah. But, like, the book almost has an anti-science... Not even almost. It arguably has, like, a very anti-science, why bother doing this kind of thing, sort of
Not
spiel,
really.
Whereas...
Not really anti-science exactly, but, like, anti-scientist. Like, there's this whole prologue about how in the old days scientists were very selfless and did their research for the betterment of mankind, but how in modern times they do their science for like money and corporate interests and stuff.
Yeah. And the movie definitely still kind of argues that, but it does also make you understand why someone would want to do that outside of just money, because Hammond is almost childlikely...
Guys, it's in the Jeff Goldblum says it himself.
Yeah.
Your scientists were so preoccupied with whether or not they could.
Yeah,
They didn't stop
but
to think
the book is very clearly like on... I forget the guy's character. I always just call him Jeff Goldblum.
Ian Malcolm. Ian Malcolm is in both novels. Ian Malcolm is basically the author's mouthpiece for all of the views he agrees with.
Yeah,
and he is
right.
He goes off on long, pompous, preachy tangents every other chapter. Like you think he's preachy.
Do you think he like writes new chapters with his chest exposed, just laying down all sweaty and glistening?
And then you have the cropped image of Alan Grant.
He spends most of both novels high on morphine, actually, because he gets injured in both books and spends half the time not being able to do anything except lecture the other characters. But John Hammond is also like a really horrible excuse for a human being in the book. So,
yeah.
Yeah,
the movie definitely, at the very least, makes him sympathetic, which is... So, yeah, it's definitely not a case of dunking on the author, but there's very clearly a difference in ideology between the two.
I wouldn't say so, because, like, Crichton did participate in making the movie, and although his version of the screenplay was different from Spielberg's, it was also very different from his own book. You should look it up, particularly the way that his original screenplay approached Hammond's death there. It's really interesting.